The Amber Amethyst Snow White deck is actually kind of competitive. Now, I'm not saying it's top tier or anything, but it can actually hold its own against a number of different decks. And with the right draws, and because of all the card draw you play, you likely will get the right draws. You can do a lot of work against specific strategies and certain decks. In this matchup here, we're going up against another Steel Ruby deck, and I want to just show you how we can effectively just deal with locations, and all you need is one card because you play a lot of the mim cards, obviously 8 of them, plus you have the ability to recur them from the discard pile with the Snow White. So my opponent is on the play, they establish a Bayou going first, so I opt to drop the Rafiki instead of the Cinderella so that I can crash into that Bayou, and then I can always bounce it back with Snake if the opponent established a threat on board that would take out the Rafiki. They opt to play another location, and so I'm thinking this is a John Silver location, like Pirate deck, and they're going to attempt to get a lot of lore off these locations. I play the Bare Necessities, just hard casting it, take the Jolly Roger, and I see 3 characters in hand that are a little underwhelming, so I'm fine with that right now. So not putting another character on board is okay, because there's nothing the opponent can do to really threaten this Rafiki, and I can always bounce it back with the Mim Fox next turn if I want. Now my Rafiki is Challenger 3, so by dropping this Crab, you're going to see the incredible value I get off of this Rafiki. It takes out 2 locations. My opponent who was on the play is down to 4 cards now while it's back to their turn, and we have card advantage, like big card advantage over them, because we know they have a Robin Hood and a Captain Hook in hand. They drew another Jolly Roger. They put their characters on it because it can move for free, and they end up just questing for 2 with the John Silver. So this is definitely like an aggro strategy, and I have to be aware of how high their lore gets because these locations could end up clutching the game out for them. So what I'm going to do here is use the the crab in order to take out the hook, and then bounce it back with the fox in order to take out the location. That takes the John Silver down on its resist and its lore. Unfortunately, they get a Maui's Place of Exile, which means now that this John has a resist 2, and you can see that that's a really good top deck for them because they're able to take out my Mim Fox, unfortunately, and their John Silver lives. They're only on 3 ink though, so we're going to continue to ink and develop towards that Snow White and the Elsa. But I'm just gonna have to pass on this. The Maui's Place of Exile at least gets no lore. They top deck the 5-drop Robin Hood, and I'm like, okay, like that's 2 great top decks in a row, I guess. Sure. And only on 3 ink, right? And they top deck 2 cards that can play it. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that seems kind of lucky to me. But you're going to see this crab do work again, dropping it and boosting up the Maleficent so we can crash into the John. I'm not too worried about the exile because, like, the location, because it's not gaining them lore. They'll move the Robin Hood there. Can they finally top deck something they can't play or force to ink since they're only on 3 ink? And yes, they do. So that's okay. Looking at my discard pile here, I'm going to opt to just throw down this Snow White and probably, ink the Maleficent and pass turn. Instead of playing the Maleficent and drawing a card, I'm going to have to eat the next 2 lore off this Robin Hood and then get back a Mim Fox with the Snow White that I can then play and take out the Robin Hood, because the Robin Hood does essentially have 7 toughness because it has resist 1, so I do need 7 strength to get over it. They have an RLS Legacy, which is probably their top deck, so they ink the Smee, play the Legacy. Now this is threatening another 2 lore, so I'm just trying to think if there's a best way to go about this and take out the RLS and the Robin Hood, but there isn't, so I'm going to have to be forced to just let the RLS get 2 lore and put them to 14. So I'm thinking like, okay, it's not even worth crashing the crab. I'd rather draw the cards because they're going to get the 2 lore anyways, and I'm going to try to take out the RLS in one shot. So the Bare Necessities now is just ink. I did have a line here where I could have potentially tried to stall with the Elsa so the Robin Hood can't quest, but it doesn't matter because the RLS is still getting them lore. So I'm just going to opt to play out the Mim Fox line, but you can see me mulling over, do I want to play this Elsa and stall and just develop a stronger board? And you know, I'm not at risk of getting like be prepared or anything because the opponent's only on 4 ink, so I do exactly what I say and bounce the crab back, get the Challenger 3 on the Fox, and that's going to be able to take out the Robin Hood. Unfortunately, they do get a card draw, but I'm going to then develop further with the crab back on board and a small Snow White. The reason I do this is because when I quest with Snow White again, I'm going to be getting back that Mim Fox again. I didn't see what they inked, but they drop an Agrabah, and I'm like, thank goodness I dropped 5 strength on board with the Snow White and the crab, because this is going to be able to take out the Agrabah and then Snow White quest, get back the Fox, and I'm going to be able to bounce back the crab and then replay crab to get a total of Challenger 6, and take out the RLS Legacy. So a little bit of ingenuity there. I bet most of you didn't know you could do that, because even I didn't know until I saw it, and I was like, oh, I think I can do this, and then I did it. So I just eliminate all of their lore. They're only on 5 ink. I'm on 8 ink. I have infinite card advantage. I have the Snow White established. Like, yeah, they just put on another Maui's Place of Exile, and the game is essentially over at this point. So I'm going to quest, grab back a Maleficent so I can play it and draw a card. And this is one of the reasons why you want to play Maleficent and like get it into your discard, because it is basically a free card draw engine if you get your Snow White online. I'm going to play a little cautious and a little slow here and opt to take out their location. So I'm going to bounce back the crab. Yeah, just experimenting, you know, seeing different cool lines that I can do with the Mim bounce and the Snow Whites on the recursion. So get some extra lore in, get the bounce stuff going, get the boost from the crab, and one crab has done all this work. The opponent gets a Maui, which is finally going to be able to deal with my Snow White, but at this point it does not matter. We top deck a Surfer, and oh my goodness, insult to injury at this point. Is Surfer going to be a win more card in this deck? I don't know. I talked about it in the deck list video, which is linked in the description, that I was kind of on the fence about it, but I do like it because, again, being able to recur the Surfer, it's a big body, it quests for 2, it draws you 2, it does a lot actually, and in a closer game, like where you didn't just kind of run away with it, it could make the difference with that draw 2, right? It's why you also play something like the Rapunzel. So I end up just developing a you know, pretty much game board here. We draw 2, draw some more, ink some more. Gonna take out this location again, continue to draw. I'm not BMing, guys, I swear. I just want to see the different lines of play, because I'm learning this deck in the new meta as well, and it's looking pretty good. But the next match I'm going to show you is just absolutely insane. So if you made it this far in the video, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for the next one. But yeah, this is obviously over. So let's wrap it up and get ready for the Emerald Amethyst match. Alright, so in this next one here, we're actually going first, which is great. When you go first with this deck and you have that 1-drop, like I mentioned in the deck list video, you do have a, I don't want to say significant advantage, but you do have a pretty strong advantage. Now, this is not what I wanted to see, and I probably should have put back one of the, or inked one of the friends on the other side, because playing against Emerald, you know, turn 2, they're bound to drop that Ursula and rip the song out of your hand. And so I'm like, oh shoot, like if I would have at least inked one on, I think I still lose one anyways, right? Because even if I ink one, I play one, turn 2, they still drop the Ursula and rip one out of my hand. So if I have 3 in the opening hand, it's just, it is what it is. I'm going to end up hard casting Bare Necessities to see if they do have the Ursula. Not that it would do anything, but I do see the Ursula Deceiver of All, so not the Ursula Deceiver. We're going to rip the friends, leave them with the Mother Knows Best and the other cards here. And this Merfolk isn't going to be able to take out my Cinderella, which means I'm going to be able to sing again the friends on the other side. And I don't think the opponent actually had a turn 2 play. So they ink a crab, which again, we knew they had. And I think they have a Kit Cowd clicker. I draw the 4th friends on the other side. And I'm just like, okay, like I just got to get these used up, I guess. I don't really want to ink them, but at the same time, like, you know, I guess I have to make a decision. What's nice about this deck too is that like I don't mind discarding like high-end cards like the Elsa, because I'll be able to get it back with the Snow White. They're going to ink the Queen's Castle, which was the other card I was thinking about ripping there. They're going to drop an Ursula, and I'm like, that's perfect, because I have the Pinocchio and I have the Mim Fox already developed on board. So this is really great. You love to see it. Pinocchio just annihilates that Ursula. Well, the Mim Fox does, but the Pinocchio helps. We're going to ink and drop in order to bait out the Kit Cowd clicker, because we want to use up the opponent's turn here. So I want them to develop the kit so that they don't have to play anything else. They know that they need to slow down this Cinderella. I can always sing my friends with the Mim Fox. I don't necessarily need to sing both of them. The ideal thing here would be drawing into either Rapunzel or Snow White. Well, now that I have the Bare Necessities, Snow White would be nice. Okay, we don't draw either. That's fine. We're going to end up inking that one Cinderella that they bounce back because we drew into another one. And I'm going to actually opt to sing, I think. Because on 5 ink, okay, I sing and I'm going to grab the other Queen's Castle, leaving them with Mother Knows Best and a Mim Fox. I'm going to hard cast the friends. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm so paranoid about them drawing an Ursula Deceiver and ripping the friends out of my hand. I just want to get the value off the friends here. So we end up staying with the Bare Necessities, which if they rip that, that's fine, I guess. But we don't really care about the Mother Knows Best. Like in this board state, you would think that Mother Knows Best would do work because our Mim cards lose tempo, but bouncing a bounce card back to my hand, given all of the on-play effects that I have, like it's good for me. Like I'll just play a Pinocchio and play the Mim Fox again, or play the Mim Snake again, get the Pinocchio back. So it's just like you're giving me extra recursion here. The opponent is going to opt to play the Fox that we knew they had, ink the Kit Cloud Kicker that they bounced back, and they're not going to crash, and that's going to cost them because our top deck, I'll spoil it for you right now, is going to be a Rapunzel. So we drop the Rapunzel, we're going to draw 2, and this is where the game just snowballs out of control, guys. We're going to ink the Cinderella because now we have multiple cost 3 or higher characters on board. We're not going to need to sing with Cinderella necessarily. We're going to rip the Mother Knows Best with the bare necessities, so keep the opponent on absolutely nothing, and just pass turn. Next turn we're going to develop the Snow White. They draw the Ursula Deceiver too late. I think we've played all 3 bare necessities that we play in the deck, and all 4 friends on the other side. We literally drew into every single song against the worst matchup to draw them in, but thankfully the opponent didn't have the Deceiver fast enough, and we kept them off their card draw. That was key, right? We bare necessities out the friends on the other side that they had early on. We dealt with the Ursula Deceiver of all, the double singer with the Pinocchio, Mim Fox. So we played correctly in order to keep the opponent on no resources, and this is where the Amber Amethyst deck can be kind of a control oriented deck. So we're going to end up inking, I probably should have inked the Maleficent, to be honest, because I have card draw in the forced exertion with Pinocchio plus Rapunzel. So I can force something exerting with the Pinocchio, crash it, and then use Rapunzel to heal it, right? Like it's absolutely broken. I can not bounce, but I can get the Mim cards back from the discard pile with the Snow White, bounce the Pinocchios or bounce the Rapunzels back to hand, and just get infinite card draw. Like the loops are ridiculous. The opponent top decks a Rabbit though, and that's really good. They're going to draw off that, but again, playing Rabbit costs 4. It's going to use up their turn. We're going to get free value off of this Snow White. I could take the Elsa, but I'm not planning on dropping it this turn. Instead, I actually want to get this Rabbit out of rotation. I'm fine if you're going to draw your cards, because I'm going to draw 2 as well off of dropping this Rapunzel. And then I'm going to have to pass after this, but it's totally fine. Or no, I can ink and then I can play another snake if I really wanted to. So that's exactly what I do, and I probably bounce. Okay, it's kind of hit or miss. I guess I leave the Rapunzel on board because I want the 2 lore. It's pretty good. So bouncing the Pinocchio there just gives me more gas and puts the opponent on, hey, like they always have a Pinocchio. They're always going to tap down my stuff. What's funny is I didn't actually tech anything in this deck for evasive. So when I see this evasive genie come down, I'm just like, I have absolutely no way to deal with evasives because I took Peter Pan Shadow out of the deck, right? So I just have to race them or force their evasive to crash into my stuff, which is easy enough to do, especially when I have an advantage like this. But when I saw that genie, I was just like, oh yeah, and the Tinkerbell that they inked, I was like, I don't have a way to deal with evasive, so that's kind of unfortunate. Like I could tap them down with the Elsa, so I'm basically just racing them, and in the end, anyways, right? Like I'm either slowing them down, but I'm not actually removing it. So we're gonna crash the snake. And then crash the other snake, quest with the Rapunzel, and the Rapunzel keeps up with the genie in and of itself. Drop another Rapunzel to draw 2. Yeah, like the snowballing is just ridiculous. Ink a Maleficent and play the Snow White to heal the other snake. Now this Snow White that we played will develop our shift Snow White that was bounced with the genie, so that means we can shift and quest on the same turn, get back the Elsa that we discarded from the merfolk at the beginning of the game, tap down whatever they play on board, and like the game is already over at this point, right? There's nothing in this color combination that can deal with my board the way it is. If this Emerald Amethyst deck doesn't maintain control and like slow down the board state, like if it gets out of control like this, there's no way they win the game. Like they're not gonna be able to win a race. They're not gonna be able to just out my cards fast enough. Like there's nothing they're gonna really be able to do. The crab on genie is kind of nice to out the Rapunzel, but again, it stops them from questing, and you have no way to stop the Snow White. You reveal a second crab, and that doesn't do anything. It actually will deal with my triple Mim snake on board, but you'll see kind of what happens here. And I knew, kind of thinking this out, like this is how it's going to go, but it's totally fine. We get the Elsa back for next turn. Not that I don't even think we end up playing the Elsa, to be honest. So I probably should have taken the other card back. And I'm just thinking like, okay, they're going to end up crashing one of their crab, so it's going to give their genie Challenger 3, and then they're going to use that to take out my Snow White, right? Because one crab will not die to the Simba, so one crab will stay on board. I could opt not to quest, but I'm like, I'm just racing them at this point. I'm going to win the game. So I'm fine if you take out my Snow White and you lose a crab in the process. They top deck yet another rabbit, and that's really good. But again, we have double Pinocchio, and they get an Ursula Deceiver, so they know our hand. I think they actually already knew our hand, and they knew we had multiple Pinocchios from the first Ursula Deceiver. But like, there's nothing really the opponent can do here. They're going to end up doing exactly what I said, though. Take out one, or crash into the Simba in order to take it out. The crab doesn't get banished from that. Then crash the second crab into one of the snakes. It does get banished, which will boost up the genie, which is forced to take out the Snow White, because the advantage you're getting off the Snow White, or I'm getting off the Snow White, is just ridiculous. We top deck the Baloo, and again, Pinocchio can tap something down and force the, like, and Baloo can crash into it and gain 2 lore off being banished, right? And then I can get it back with Snow White and do it all again, or bounce back to Pinocchio, retap. Like, it's just ridiculous. Draw a second Baloo here, and I'm just like, all right, well, you know, it's kind of endless here. No real point in challenging, I guess. So we're just going to drop the Baloo and pass turn, because now the opponent has to challenge it, which means I gain 2 lore. And is it a win more card? I don't know, but it can definitely clutch out a game. The opponent knows it's over and they end up scooping it up. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like on it and a comment if you made it this far. Thank you again for watching. What you see on screen here is a deck list, which is also linked in the description, and a link to my deck list breakdown video where I explain my choices is also in that description as well. So check that video out if you haven't already. We're at 16 minutes and 30 seconds, so we're going to wrap it up here. Quantum is out.